Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How's it going, everybody? Office hours are open for business. What questions you got? Let's hear what you got for me. What's cooking? I can see some folks are still hopping on. So if anybody's got a question, feel free to just pipe up. Quiet bunch today. Anybody got a question? Anybody want to check in?
John, I got a question for you.
Hey,
Can you
what's
hear
up, man?
regarding that software that does the metadata, metadatics or whatever it's called?
Metadactics, I think it's
Metadactics?
Metadatics. Yeah, Metadatics. Yeah.
Okay. How does that work? Do you attach a file to it and then you type in all the stuff you want
Yeah,
and
if you want, I can actually just quickly show you. It's pretty
okay.
easy. So let's see. I'll just open up a file from
Yeah,
my
I
library.
don't have it yet, but I was kind of reading about it, but I was kind of unclear.
Yeah, I can show. I can show what it does here. Hang on, just a second. Let me just drop a track in there. Okay. So what he's talking about, it's a metadata. Um, it's a program that you can use to kind of manage your metadata. Um, and it's called Metadatics. It works on, I think it's Mac only, but this is one that I've found to be particularly useful. It's pretty great. There's a lot of things you can do with it. You can drop artwork on here. So for example, if I wanted, I'm not going to save this, but you can see, you can just drop artwork straight on there. It's got all your fields that you'll want to fill out. And then it's very easy. You can save by, you can copy all tags. You can select a few different tags that you want it to copy between. And then you can copy, it's literally just copy paste between files, which is really cool. It saves a lot of time. And yeah,
Hmm.
this
So
work.
so once you do that, once you've assigned all the tags you want to your artwork and your song, and then you save it. If you take that song, then I could put that song on Disco. I could put it on any other site, and it would all that information would stay with the file.
Precisely. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. And yeah, so for example, you can see here, I just added an artist name here. Notice this is the instrumental. The regular file doesn't have it. And it's got like this little red dot here between that. You can just press S, it saves the file. Now this is saved on here. And then I think it's as easy as like, if you want to copy specific fields, it's like you could select this field and go like this, copy selected tags, paste paste tags, replaced existing values. Yeah, see, it just pasted in
oh
the specific tags that I wanted it to do. And you can also just have it paste all the tags, copy and paste all the tags from something too. So it's pretty dope.
yeah,
Um,
that's very dope. Oh, I love
and
that.
yeah, it's very quick. It's very easy to just like copy and paste all your settings. If you have like an AIFF and an MP3, you can just quickly do that. And it's got all the fields right here. I've never used iTunes to do metadata, but I can't imagine that doing your metadata in iTunes is going to be faster than this.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, I'm sold. I'm going to get that. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say it's probably like one of the better $30 that I've spent. When I started getting into all this.
Oh, I saw it for 9.99 today.
Oh, then you're. I think I must have paid too much for it then. Maybe I'm not remembering how much I paid for it, but I thought I paid like $30 for it. Oh no, that's not the right. Actually, what I paid $30 for was my backup software, which is also really good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Does Metadatics carry over to Disco? Yeah, it does. So yeah, when you import your files into Disco, then Disco will read any metadata that's encoded into your files when you import it, whether you do it in Metadactyls or anywhere. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the legacy option. We'll do that like later on when it's like more appropriate, when the course is about up. We're actually going to talk a bit about that, but mainly like what legacy is, it's a way for people who want to stay on a monthly basis to be able to still attend the calls, to be able to do the office hours and the listening sessions, and to be able to, we will be occasionally posting different opportunities for people to submit to, as well as to potentially get feed. We don't really have a way of like ongoing getting feedback. We don't really have that in place, but there's definitely going to be some opportunities. There always are some opportunities that we extend to folks. So in terms of like different briefs that we get and stuff. Yeah. So it also, unless it's like a specific class bonus or something like that, which most of them aren't. If it's a very specific thing that's just for one course, then that might be exclusive to them. But otherwise, all the guest expert stuff you get for free with the monthly cost. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Anthony, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up, man? Hey, so I'm trying to create beats, and do you have any like any wisdom you can impart on how to sort of embark on that, creating your own beats and all that kind of stuff, or do you just have to jump into it, or how do you do it?
I would say like if you're not comfortable making your own beats, I would suggest going the way that I kind of learned how to do it, because I'm not naturally a drummer. I didn't really learn how to be a drummer or anything like that. The way I started learning how to do it was just by taking a song that I really liked the groove of and kind of breaking it down. And so you gotta, if you can find like the couple of, for me anyways, like it was like imitation was the best way for me to start doing it. And the way that I kind of decoded it was like, I would listen for where the kick, like sometimes it's kick, snap, kick, snare, whatever, like the two most like kind of like the two most important rhythmic elements. I would try to get the tempo really locked in and figure out, okay, what's the relationship between these two things? And then once I have the pattern down, then I'm listening for like more like the kind of like the hats and like, and other types of things that are kind of, sometimes those things can have a tendency to kind of swing around the main beat a little bit for me. And nowadays, I'm still, sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a really dope beat. I'd like to like do something that's similar than that. Sometimes I'll also just like go on Splice and I'll find something to start with. And then a lot of the times I'll just replace drums. I might find a loop that I really like a lot, and then I'll just like replace it with just different samples and make it my own. And then there's also, once you get a certain amount of comfort level with it, you can just start, making your own beats too. So there's no real, I think it's just practice for somebody like me who, white dude from, from like a rural town of like 1,600 people. How did I start like making beats and doing cool stuff with drums? It was just through like starting to like basically like learning from other people, and then just constantly listening to what's going on. And Splice is a really good place. There's plenty of other places too that you can get really cool loops, really cool beats, and then just like start to either drag them in and recontextualize them, or just make your own beat that's based off of the same rhythms. You can't copyright a rhythm. You can't copyright like a drum groove. You can't obviously copyright it. You can't like use somebody's samples without clearing it, but nobody can copyright like the way, the relationship between the kick and the snare and kind of the groove, just like you can't copyright a chord progression.
Right. Okay, cool. So Splice is a kind of a good way. It has a lot of different drum kits and grooves and stuff like that.
I'd suggest if you're really starting out with this, that Splice would be a really good place for you to start exploring. It's going to cost you. I think memberships start at like $8 a month. It's totally worth it, you know?
Okay.
And I think you might be able to get some kind of trial if you want to just try it out. Most, I don't know if Splice gives you a free month or what, but they might.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course, of course. Hey, Francisco, what's up, man? Let me see if I can't. Francisco, I can't unmute you, so I'm not sure your audio is on. Doesn't look like your audio is turned on, Francisco. We'll go to Eric first here. Hey, Eric, what's up, man?
What up, John? Can you hear me?
I sure can, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Hey, so you mentioned yesterday in the class about one of the tracks that you played, you said once you guys got it done, you guys put a package together and submitted it to an agency. Can you talk a little more about just the agency process? And I'm specifically want to know, like, when you submit to an agency, are you still also shopping through Catch the Moon, or did you make a decision to do one versus the other?
Oh, yeah, good question. Well, back at the time, I wasn't working for Catch the Moon, so I wasn't affiliated with Catch the Moon in any way. So I was shopping basically like I had like a few leads of places. Some people, I had a couple people make introductions for me to a couple of places, but also I was also cold reaching out to agencies. And yeah, it was like what ended up being the best match turned out to be one where I was kind of referred to this person. The agency was Music Alternatives. I was referred to them, and I had a meeting with them, and it went really well. And it was there really wasn't a lot of it wasn't an extensive process for me to sign my first deal. I feel like once you have like stuff that people can do something with, it's not that hard to get somebody's attention, but it's also there's a lot of agencies out there. There's a lot of pitch people. I'm sure if it didn't work out with Music Alternatives, I would have been able to sign somewhere else. But it was I think it took me about, when I started to pitch, it took about, I would say, like maybe a month to land a deal.
So as an agency, would it be the same as a library? Well, Catch the Moon is an agency, right? So would you say they're the same, or are they different?
So a sync agency is different than like a music production library. So music production library is more like a huge repository of music. They usually represent the publishing side of things as well, and they have like relationships built directly with certain production companies that use those libraries. Versus like a sync agency, which is the deal that I signed. The only thing that they had any stake in was my master. So
gotcha. Okay.
they had stake in the master sync. They did offer to rep my publishing. But because it was actually kind of weird, because they were offering me like a 3-year deal on the publishing, and it didn't line up with the sync deal. So it just didn't make any sense for me to sign a 3-year publishing deal after when my sync deal, I think, was was finished in 2 years. I didn't want it to be like a difference between those two, and they weren't willing to like just have them end at the same day. So I was like, I'll just we'll figure this all out when I decide whether I'm going to renew or not.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's very clear. All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and that was an exclusive deal that I signed with them. So, that was the reason why I decided not to renew with them, even though they did land me a couple of pretty decent placements. It pretty much locked me into like a library-wide deal with them, where I couldn't do anything that was like one stop. And
Right.
it also actually kind of hurt me a little bit as a producer because I couldn't produce anything for anybody that was one stop if I owned any of the master of it. So that's
Gotcha.
the only place where like exclusive deals can kind of be a little painful is if it's like a library wide kind of thing. But yeah, does that
Cool.
help?
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you very much, man.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Hey Daniel. I guess I unmuted you here, Francisco. What's up, man?
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. Thanks. So I have a question for I know this has been talked about ad nauseum,
Okay.
but it's about publishing. So I apologize it's actually a little bit different. One of the persons in my group actually is in Germany. And so she's unable to make this call. But she is with, let me see if I get that question right. Sorry about that. She's with GEMA, GEMA, which is a German version of ASCAP.
Okay. Yeah.
And so she doesn't have a publishing deal or publishing company over there, but since she's written with somebody here, does she need a publishing company now? Or like to represent as a publisher?
Actual public. Well, I would imagine that partially has to do with how the German PROs handle. If it's like BMI, then she probably doesn't necessarily need a publishing company to collect royalties that are due to her. But I think that's really a good question for the German PRO.
Okay.
I would really ask them whether she needs to set up a publishing company with them over there. I do believe if she wants to collect royalties in the U.S., that German PROs either got to have like some type of standing deal with the PROs here in the States, or she would need to set up some type of an account with one of the PROs here in the States to collect the royalties that she would be owed from like American television if land. So yeah, that's what I would say. I would ask I definitely ask the German PRO like what the best way to go is in terms of like making sure that she can collect royalties once y'all land a placement, so that she can get everything that she's entitled to.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'll let you know. Thanks.
If anybody does have any expertise with German PROs, let me know. As always, I've never actually written with anybody in Germany. Hopefully to change sometime soon. All right. Daniel, what's up, man? Still don't hear you.
How about now? Do you hear me?
Yeah, sure do.
Okay, cool. That's actually very similar to the question that I had, because I was working with a client in Mexico, and he has, I forget the name of theirs, but he's part of their PRO in Mexico. And I was wondering if we had to do the same thing. So that kind of answered a lot of my questions.
Yeah. Right. I wonder if it's hard to find information about that. So they have, what is it? The Society of Authors and Composers. I guess that's what it is over there. SCPM. Is that who they're with?
I believe so. Yeah, I'd have to double check with him, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that too. And I guess we're just gonna have to look up through them if I could. I mean, I would just need to be the publisher because he doesn't have a publishing company here, so I could either do the publishing or he can set up the publishing. I guess his own publishing. I guess it would have to be something like that, right?
Well, yeah, they're going to need either, I know with Canada, I don't think you have to do that. I think Canada, the SOCAN has a deal with the PROs in the States where you don't have to set up separate publishing here in the States. So it might be the same with Mexico. That's why I would just check with them and see what the deal is. Like the question to ask them would be like, if I'm writing with somebody in Mexico, what would they need to do to make sure that they can collect royalties in the U.S.? And then I would ask the same question the other way around. I would ask, like, how can I collect as an American writer? How can I collect royalties in Mexico?
Right.
And then you're going to have both of the sides. When it comes to the publishing side of it, you'll have both those covered, as well as the writing side as well.
Got it. Also, I was curious if you're registering a song with ASCAP or BMI or whoever, and I'm sorry if this has already been covered, but if you're doing like another version of, say, like for the instrumental version of it, you don't need to register a separate thing because it's still the same composition just without the vocals, right? Like you don't need to register another one for it.
I've seen people register instrumental versions of things. I don't really do it, but some deals that I've made with different, like I can't remember the name of the company. There was a company that does some retitling where they basically broke it up into 2 songs, and I think it's just for them, it's for tracking purposes. And it's probably a little easier to figure out like what money goes where that way. So, but I don't think that in my experience with it, I've never had to register like a separate instrumental version, myself, but I've never done it. But I've definitely seen companies do it.
So I guess I would imagine if they needed to do it, they would just do it themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes some companies, like I was saying, they use it as like a way to kind of, when they retitle, they use it as a way to kind of either make a different version of the song technically from the song that you might already have registered, or if they, and then if they want to be really specific, they want to know, okay, what's coming in from the instrumental versus the vocal version. They will sometimes register multiple versions of it.
Got it.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. And then my other question, which probably I think I can answer it myself, is that if you did like the same thing except you have like a cut down, you probably want to do the same thing. Like I would imagine maybe do the cut downs, especially if there's like any different instrumentation in it.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, I would say theoretically, I don't really do a ton of like, library cut downs with any of the stuff that I do. I'm more do like vocal tracks. That's more my bread and butter, but, yeah, I'm not really an expert when it comes to registering with the PROs, different instrumental cues. I mean, there could be a point where you're literally spending half your day like on the PRO website, and I don't know. It's like maybe that's, I would think that would be something that the libraries, if they were retitling it, that they would want to like maybe differentiate those, but I don't know. I think maybe that'd be a good question to do some research on, to just look around. I mean, I'd imagine we could, if we sat here for a few minutes on Google, we could probably find some interesting takes on that. But
yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of different, like a lot of people do things differently. I think it would be, I mean, it makes sense that as long as you register the song composition under one title like that seems like that should cover all your bases really. And then
I would think, but then there's also, I think there's ways that you can link songs to other versions of it as well. But like I said, I don't do a ton of like advanced registration with the PROs. I mostly just register the songs that they're either getting a placement or I'm pretty sure they're going to get a placement. So I do it like kind of proactively. I'm trying to get a little better about I'm actually going through my library and making sure that everything is like completely locked in right now. But I haven't been a perfectionist when it comes to that. But I think that'll be something that you'll learn quite a bit if you just ask a few questions. I would, there's probably a couple of people that I can think of off the top of my head that might be good to ask that of as well. Just some people on the library side, if you want to hit me up outside the call.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks so much.
Yep. Cool. Let's see. Great question. I like these. They're like test the limits of what I know about all this stuff. All right. Is there a discount for taxi membership that we get through Catch the Moon? I think at one point that might have been the case. I'm not 100% sure about that. I can check back and see. I don't ever, at least not while I've been here. We haven't like announced any type of thing, but I can ask. Taxi discount. It looks like we may be bringing the head of Taxi in as a guest coming up. Michael, he's a pretty cool dude. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we could possibly have some type of a discount for folks in the course. If not like right now, possibly in the near future. But I'll ask about it. Oh, cool. Yeah. Daniel's saying like, I'll make you some beats. That's another thing to kind of think about, Anthony. It's like, if you want to make beats, that's cool. But as you're learning, if you want to still be like super productive, or it might even be a good situation to bring somebody in who's better at beat making than you are, that maybe you can learn from, or maybe you can collab together. Teresa, you were asking if there's a song in the queue for last week. Do you need to resubmit? You never need to resubmit anything because the queue, unless it's something that, as I'm going through, I'm cleaning up. If there was like a dead link or, a song from like 6 years ago, they're still going to be in there. So we'll definitely be getting to people as it's like first in, first out. Oh, this is cool. List of licensed. There's this thing of list of licensed territories for all platforms. Okay. So this has like this has all the list of all the different PROs that are in the different countries. Wow. There's a bunch of them. Surprised they don't link to their websites or anything like that. Oh, okay. But Lori, I think the 5 names of a song with BMI would just be alternative titles. That means like if you have a song that like, I think what that means, it's like if you have a song that could possibly be searched for under a couple of different names, because maybe the song has like a really memorable hook, but it's not necessarily the title of the song. That might be what that field is more for. At least that's the case with ASCAP. Oh, okay. Different ISRC for each version. So Sonic Scott was saying that you should have like a different ISRC for each version, but I think our ISRCs are for like published tracks, aren't they? That's like you have to register them as a product, I believe, and I don't think that those are free either. So you have to you literally have to pay I think you have to set up your own ISRC, like kind of you set up an ISRC account. Or you can go through somebody like CD Baby or one of the other publishers or distributors. Oh, okay. I'm pretty sure that discount will be able to get back for everybody. Sorry, I'm just like going through the chat here. Nice. They're pretty approachable, I would imagine. So that's cool. It looks like Emphatic negotiated a discount directly. Ah, nice. The Klein Bell. It's funny. There are certain places in times in my life where people have just like called me Klein Bell. Actually, probably the place that people have called me that the most is just in dodgeball. Nobody ever calls me John in dodgeball. They're just like Klein Bell. All right. Well, I think I'm caught up on all the questions. Anybody else got anything? This time's for you. So, hey, what's up? What's up, Adam?
How's it going?
I'm good, man.
Good. Could just talk a little bit more on the music, that music alternatives deal that you got.
Sure.
I was just wondering, so was that a deal for like everything you released, or was that just for like one track or one album?
It was basically like a library-wide deal for every single song that I write or could write. It was basically like a 360 kind of deal in a way, with like anything that I have master ownership in, basically.
Okay.
Is what the deal encompassed.
Okay, that clarifies it for me. I was just wondering. Yeah, so thanks.
Sure. Did you have some? I see your. That's funny. Did you have something else you wanted to ask?
Me?
Was your hand up from earlier?
Is that me, right?
Yeah.
Francisco? Oh, okay. No, yeah, actually, I did have something else.
Cool.
Sorry, I have like two speakers. Like, sorry, man. So, second question is, when do you know if the date to submit the next song is going to be yet? Has it been established?
Just last day of January. So.
Okay, is that link up yet, or is it the same link?
It's probably gonna be the same link. But yeah, I mean, I won't be publishing it until you can probably, if you find the link from last time, you can probably just post it there if you want to submit early. But but yeah, I won't be like reposting it in the group until a few days before the end of the month.
Okay, and last question: the CTM playlist that you shared a couple weeks ago, like the Spotify one, do you add to it often?
That was just like something that I just started like personally. Every year that I've been in sync, I've kind of made my own sync playlist that I'll just throw stuff in that I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I thought, oh, it might be neat to make a playlist of songs that people are looking for in briefs as they come in at Catch the Moon. But it's been a thing where I've probably put like one out of every 50 songs we actually get sent in to as requests into that playlist. So, but I bet if I went through and just looked at all the briefs over the last like few months, I bet I could pretty quickly fill that playlist up. But it's just a matter of time for me.
And can I ask one more question about those specific on what I've noticed is that, and I don't know how recent it's been updated, but a lot of the vocal tracks tend to be a little more like they have like this type of like distortion. But that's kind of where is that still part of what everyone's asking for?
Absolutely. Like having a cool vocal sound is really important. Part of a modern vocal sound can be anything from like something that's super clean and up close, and just has like really cool air with like the different reverbs and rooms that are in there, mixed with like different tuning and detuning and wideners and just like shooting off the top of my head, like saturation, distortion, whisper effects. What are some of the other things that I use? Sometimes even like a vocoder. That they're all like, so that saturation kind of harmonic distortion that you're hearing a lot, it's definitely something that's still happening all the time, especially like and then auto tuning too, just tuning as an effect is still like a huge thing,
Okay.
Yep.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of course, man. Yeah. Getting that whole palette of like vocal stuff, that might be something interesting to cover in the future is some of the vocal tricks that I use, just because it's like a rabbit hole, but it's important to get some of this stuff down, because like if you don't know how to make the vocals sound, I mean, some of it has to do with the performance, like the vocal performance itself, but some of it also has to do with the just the way in which it's treated and just kind of how it all sits in the mix is what gives it kind of that modern vocal sound versus something that feels sort of amateur. Yeah. What's up, Anthony? You got another one for me?
We're talking. I had. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So, what's the difference between like if you if you get distortion out of sort of with your vocal going in with sort of a hot vocal as opposed to just like putting distortion on it later? Like, what's the difference?
Well,
or is there a difference? Or?
I mean, I've recorded both ways, and like usually when I'm trying to record like a distorted vocal going in, I'm like really hitting analog hardware. Usually I'm usually hitting the pre pretty hard, and getting the warmth from the preamp. Because what happens when you have an analog pre, it has to be like the right thing for the right vocalist, but sometimes it sounds really cool to really push it, because what analog does, the digital doesn't, is it, sorry, I'm gonna, just because it's a little distracting. What the analog does that the digital doesn't is when you reach past the 0 threshold on digital equipment, then it's a big question mark. I mean, it could sound really terrible. You just don't want it to ever go above there, because like sometimes it'll be okay, but then other times you'll just you'll get like these terrible artifacts that like you'll notice them. Versus with analog, once it pushes over that 0, it can kind of, depending on the pre and the voice and kind of what sound you're going for, it can give it like a nice kind of toasty warmth to it. So it really just depends on like what pre you're using, but I'll sometimes do that going in. I'll sometimes intentionally track a vocal super hot, just as an effect, because there's like kind of like a proximity that you can kind of get with it too sometimes. But you can also go overboard with that a little bit. I actually, I have a track right now where we had to redo the vocal because I loved the performance on it, but it was recorded too hot, and it really put the mixer in kind of a tough spot. So it really wasn't like gelling with the rest of the track the way we were hoping it would. So she ended up having to retrack the vocal, which is fine. But you'll play around with that stuff sometimes. And I think that's like, that right there is kind of the reason why I would say it's probably better most of the time to not do that going in, like to not record too hot going in, and more just like apply the effect after, because you have a way more control over it.
And then you can't manipulate it, right? Afterwards,
you can't take that away.
Can't take it off.
If it's recorded too hot, you can't back away from it. It's gonna, like when you record really hot too, it has a tendency to really increase the noise floor as well, which is fine for some things, but sometimes that becomes an issue as well, because then you can't compress the vocal enough to have it like pop through the mix without like bringing up a bunch of noise. There's things that make it more complicated. It's the same reason I usually don't like compress much going in either. Although I do probably compress a little more than most producers when I go in because I have the hardware version of the CL1B, which is one of the best vocal compressors on the planet, in my opinion. So I usually touch it with that going in. Sometimes
and that,
a little bit more than just like a touch.
And that does that like warm up the sound? Is that what that does?
Well, compressor has a tendency to it can kind of bring up a performance a little bit. It kind of evens out a performance a little bit, because what a compressor is doing is it's kind of monitoring a threshold from which, like when a signal comes in, it's looking for where it hits that threshold of loudness. And then once it gets above that threshold of loudness, something called attack kicks in. And depending on how fast your attack is, if it's a fast attack, it's almost immediately going to it's going to compress that signal. And it's going to be doing based off of a ratio. So for example, like 4-to-1 I think it's like for every 1 dB that gets through it's like 4, I can't remember. It's like it's 1 dB gets through for every 4. Or something like that. And it's like a limiter would be something like 20 to 1, which would be like, or higher, which would be like pretty much like nothing gets past it because hardly any dBs of volume get in because it's like 20 for every 20, 1 gets through. And what that ends up doing is it kind of levels out the performance a little bit. And it can kind of bring up, it brings up like the intricacies of things as well, I find. And it really helps, especially with a vocal, it'll help to have it like pop out of the mix a little better. That and saturation, I would say, are kind of the 2 things in my experience that really help a vocal pop through a mix. Anthony, did we lose you? I guess we lost you.
No, I'm here. Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, sir. How's the weather in California today?
Oh, it looks blue skies out here today. There was an earthquake last night. I didn't feel it, but some of my friends.
Oh yeah. How'd that go?
I didn't feel it at all. I was actually like, I think I was doing the dishes and I didn't feel it at all. I don't think it was. It must have been like super regional, I guess, or it didn't have much. It was only a 3.6, I think. So I was living in Northridge whenever the Northridge earthquake hit. You know, you want to talk about scary, man. And what's really funny is my roommate at that time looks a lot like you. Yeah,
but, he looks a lot like you. His name is Toby.
Interesting.
But it's like it happened early in the morning, and it shook so hard that it threw me out of bed. It was like terrifying.
No, I can't even imagine. I mean, it was before I lived here, but I remember seeing the footage when I was in high school, and I was thinking, "Whoa, that's crazy." Just seeing like sections of a freeway fall through and stuff like that. But the thing is, like the city was like woefully underprepared for earthquakes back then. I like to think that like LA is going to be a little better prepared if something like that ever happens again, which I'm sure it will at some point. Hopefully not anytime soon, but
yeah, hopefully not anytime soon. Those things are scary.
Yeah, it's, maybe like once or twice a year I'll feel something shake. I think in the 15 years I've lived here, there's only been one earthquake where we're like, oh, I was with somebody and we were like, this is like happening for a while. It just kind of happened for 30 seconds and it was kind of scary, but I don't know. It's part of the fun. There's so many things I love about Southern California. It's like you gotta every place has got its like high points and its low points. So at least there's no tornadoes here.
Yeah, tornadoes are scary.
Yeah, they're pretty nuts. In the country where not in the country like the outside of the U.S., but like out in the country where I grew up, I have a story like when I was a little kid. My parents were out in the garden, like weeding the vegetable garden, and it was kind of stormy. And I look up, and then I walk up to my parents, and I'm like, "Mom, Dad, what's that?" And then they look up and they're like, "Oh, that's nothing." And then they go back to the garden. And then like about 30 seconds later, they calmly like walked over to my sister and I and said like, "Hey, we're going into the basement now." And it turned out that was like, I was pointing to like a huge funnel cloud that was like right over our house. And it touched down like half a mile away. So it was pretty funny. That was like the story of them, calmly like guiding my sister and I down into the basement without freaking us out. I also saw one when I lived in Wichita, Kansas, out in the country, just outside of Wichita. I was staying on a farm, and we saw a tornado that looked like it was about 1.5 miles away. They're crazy. Oh, I see this question here, Nicole. An engineer is trying to charge you $200 to find and deliver some old song stems. $200. The thing that's kind of funny about that is like, if I knew, like if somebody came to me and they were like, need the old stems that I already paid you to like work on for me. Do you mind, like, if they didn't print the stems already, then maybe that's like understandable. But you know, if they printed stems, I think that's probably going to be the case. Is like they're saying probably the $200 is actually to print the stems. But you know, if they're not printing the stems, if they already had the stems and they're just trying to find them, that seems excessive to me. Also seems kind of disorganized if they can't quickly find that either. Like, you know, I know where my sessions are and my backup drives. It's like, if somebody were to say like, hey, do you mind like transferring me the session that we did like 3 years ago? I'm like, okay, no problem. I'll zip it up and send it over to you. So it's like, I don't know. It seems like that could be excessive, but if they're printing stems versus like stems that they already had, then, you know, that might be reasonable. Printing stems, especially, but here's the thing too, it depends on how many years ago too, because when you print stems, part of the thing is you want the entire state of whatever the master chain is on it. So, if your mastering situation was like partially analog, their equipment's going to be different now. Analog equipment changes like month to month, sometimes even, you know, we have a couple of pre's over the Death Star that, you know, they can fritz out every once in a while. Same thing happens with like all analog gear. All analog gear, the circuitry has a certain lifespan to it. It's going to have a different feel and flavor to it. So you're going to, you know, depending on like if they're going to print the stems, if it wasn't all done in the box, plugins can change too, you know, could have a different update to the plugin. I don't know. It definitely, when you're getting older stems, it can be a little bit of a complicated situation. So that's another situation in which it's like, if they are printing stems, it can actually make it a lot more work sometimes. But I don't know. I'm not making excuses for the engineer, but it's maybe a little more complicated than just like, oh, they're charging me $200 to find some files. But if they are charging you $200 just to find some files, that seems excessive. All right. Oh, 8 years ago. Yeah, 8 years ago is a long time. Yeah, to see if they need to actually print the stems, because, you know, like back then it wasn't really so much a thing, unless if you were doing an artist release or something like that and it was like a major label kind of deal, then, you know, they would sometimes do it then. But like a lot of independent artists, the producer, because all the artist wanted was just like the version of the song to put on their CD, and they were self-releasing the songs, they wouldn't really like go through the trouble of printing all the stems out and stuff. So, hey Tim, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. I missed you guys last week. I'm going to be out there the 1st of February, but missed now. So I saw a friend of mine was out there too. He has a music shop back in Tennessee where I came from. So I hadn't had a chance to talk to him about it yet to see what he thought about it. Anyway, the songs that we have to have for our EP, whenever that time comes, this time next month or whatever that is. All right, if we don't have any now and we got to have 3 in a month, then what happens if we don't have those 3 by the end of the month, end of February?
Well, hang on just a second. Sorry. I'll get to you in just a second here. Well, first off, it's not like we give out assigned grades or anything like that. So it's not like anybody's going to get an F if they don't submit their songs. You know, the whole thing is this course was created for you to, in our opinion, to give you like a real good marketable basically like something that you can go out and immediately market. So if you don't have the songs together, that's perfectly okay. And you can continue working the process that we're showing you in terms of like the songwriting, in terms of the production, in terms of like, you know, just kind of your overall strategy. And we'll just like, you know, encourage you to continue your work until you have a collection of songs that work. And then the same thing goes for anybody who makes an EP where at the end of the day, they're like, you know, it's working, but it's also not working. That's kind of part of the process, part of the growth process with this. You know, like I was saying yesterday, I've had like probably like 4 or 5 different directions that I've gone in, that I was going in writing wise when I was first starting out with things before I kind of hit my stride. And, you know, it might take you a little while to kind of dial in, like what's the marketable sound for you and the people that you most enjoy collaborating with. So that's what I would say is like, I would just encourage you to do what you can. You know, don't put a ton of pressure on yourself because it's probably not going to, who knows, maybe that's the thing you need though. I mean, I'm not going to say like, don't put pressure on yourself to put some songs together, because at the end of the day, like, you know, you paid to participate in this course. And part of like the challenge of that is like doing the work. So, you know, I would just suggest like you should do the work. Even if you're not doing it in the time frame that we're suggesting, it's okay to just continue on and until you get it done. You know, I would suggest that would be, you know, I would say it's better to have like 4 songs that you can market in 6 months than it is to, you know, have 4 songs that are sloppily put together in 4 months. But, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I would say definitely don't be discouraged if you're, you know, for whatever reason, like why are you having a hard time putting the songs together?
Well, I don't know. I have been working, you know, with Dave Johnson, and we've turned in a couple of songs, but they've been rejected. So, and we did a lot of songs. We did like 14 songs, but, you know, we don't feel like we're hitting what your expectations are. So, you know,
just watch the language with like the whole rejected thing. Like the whole process, the whole point of the feedback process is not to reject anybody. It's like we're giving everybody feedback on their songs to make their music better. You know, I would say even with the stuff that we do accept to rep, which we do, we don't do like we don't accept like every time we do this, we don't accept like, you know, 30 or 40 songs. It's very, very, very selective. So, you know, just because you're not hitting that mark, it's really just like we're one agency out of many. You're getting like basically the opinion of like one person out of like potentially like thousands of people that you could get feedback on this stuff for in the industry. So I would say take anything that you get feedback wise with a grain of salt and do not be discouraged. And, you know, like I showed, and I think people could see in the folders, maybe you could, maybe you couldn't, but there were probably, there had to be at least like 30 or 40 ideas that I had in that first folder that I was doing for the EP that I ended up eventually like landing a deal with. So it took me a lot of work, and, you know, not to say that there aren't folks in this group that will succeed a lot faster than I did, but I would just say like, just don't be discouraged, and definitely don't think of it as like rejection, because that's not like the way Kathy or I see any of this stuff. It's, you know, we just want everybody to get better, and I promise you, if you take the feedback to heart, and, you know, if there's something you disagree with or whatever, you know, get more feedback, get feedback from the group, do what you can to improve. And I guarantee you put the right team together, you get that stuff going and pivoting in the marketable direction, you're going to eventually find believers in your stuff. That's what happened for me. And that's what I've seen happen for countless other people. So.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then Sonic, yeah, you're totally right. Like, you know, I would certainly hope that everybody in here, as they're making this music, you know, especially if you're getting like if you feel like you're checking off a lot of the boxes that people are looking for, you're getting good feedback in general, you should certainly be pitching, you know, especially at the end of the course, once you have this stuff. The whole idea is like, we want to get you like armed with something that you can kind of put together as a package and kind of ship around, so that then you can pitch to all the different folks that are out there. There's so many agencies, so many libraries. There's like, and just like direct, potentially direct with supervisors, even though, like, you know, we get so many of the experts where they're like, you know, it's kind of a tough thing to send stuff direct. But you know, of course, yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like songs that have a lot of potential. Christina, you're saying like songs that have a lot of potential can need some tweaking for sure. You know, some of the best stuff that I think I've done, it's been like, you know, certainly wasn't the first iteration of it. You know, there was certainly the one that I got the huge Starbucks spot with started out as like a voice note on my phone. And we shaped it, you know, we built it up and we shaped it, added some extra stuff. You gotta like, you know, sometimes I think that the concept was always happy feeling, but yeah, it's like all the songs, you're going to need to like make tweaks along the way with everything that you do. I think that's just part of like the creative process. And, you know, certainly getting discouraged is like the one thing that's going to guarantee that you're kind of like getting in your own way of like, you know, what might be possible for you. So I would definitely suggest like, just keep going for it, you know? Yeah. So Christina, the EP, and everybody has the opportunity to submit 4 songs for their EP. They should be the 4 songs that you've already submitted. We'd prefer that you not submit like new songs that are outside. So it's like, if you have like 4 songs that you've created during the course, if you've done like revisions to those songs that you've done, definitely include them in the EP. But the whole idea is like creating your branding package, your 4-song EP, and we want to see it. And we want to hear how it's all come together for you. Yeah, the suggestion. So from the very beginning, we said it's like, it's really helpful when you're branding yourself and you're putting together a package of stuff, that it's all kind of in the same genre, the same bucket, the same like moniker. Because like if you have like a song that's like a country song, and then you have a rap song, and then you have like an EDM song, if you have all those on the same EP, it can be very, I would say, jarring and difficult for whoever is listening to it to really know what it is that you're trying to like brand yourself as, you know, because otherwise, like, you know, if you had like 30 tracks and they were all over the place genre wise, you'd probably be better off just like representing yourself as a record label or something. I don't know. That doesn't feel like a brand, like an artist brand or like a producer brand so much to me. That feels more like a library. It's almost like you're creating like your own library or something, which kind of feels like, yeah, most people like to work with somebody who's like, a buddy of mine, Dario, he told me early on, I didn't really want to hear this when I was first starting out as a producer. I was like, oh, you know, I can do this and I can do that. And there are a few things that I can do pretty well, but there are some things that I do better than others. And when you start to get known for doing one thing better than everything else, and it really kind of becomes your lane, then people start to see you as like, oh, this is the guy who can do this or do that. And, oh, I need like a cool, like, you know, modern Americana song. Oh, this person's great for that because they have like they have a track record of like producing cool tracks that are kind of in this genre of music. But it's going to like, it may take some time to figure out like what that marketable angle is for you and the folks that you work with, your production team. So yeah. can we submit our EP after the class is done? This is a tough question because like, unfortunately we can't leave that window open forever because, you know, it's just going to be, it's the whole thing is like, it's an assignment that was due like during the course. So for us to extend that, it kind of, in a way, it just kind of, it makes the deadline not a deadline. And I don't like that. I feel like it's like honoring deadlines is like something I have to do like week to week with things. There are certain sessions that I have to prepare for and get ready for. And if I don't put the work in or if there's a pitch and I miss my opportunity, I don't lay that vocal down. I don't get this mix job done in time, then I'm going to miss the pitch. So it's part of the muscles that we're trying to teach you all and helping you to flex those muscles and get stronger with it. So I would say it's probably not going to be the case where people are going to be able to submit their EPs after the class is done. Yeah. I would say like what you should submit whatever you can that week. If you have 2 songs that are done, do what you can, do your 2 songs, and then maybe still put your marketing together for it. You know, put your get your logo, get your branding package. You know, if you put it up on Disco, make a little header for it. Fill out all your contact information. You know, it's your opportunity to kind of present to us what you've been putting together as if we were, and we are an agency here in town in LA, but like as if we were like any agency that you would go out and approach, any music supervisor that you would go out and approach, any library that you would approach about potentially having your music in. It's kind of like that. That's what we want to teach. And oh, hang on. What were your takeaways from NAMM? That I have awesome friends. That was the best part about NAMM, was just wandering around on the convention floor with my friends. Yeah, it was a good time. Those events. I also, the other takeaway, and I would suggest this to anybody, is never go on Saturday. Saturday is like the worst day to go. It's like the most people are there, and it's insanity. It's like there's nowhere to sit. There's like there's nowhere to walk. I'm never going on a Saturday again. But I am going to be going. Sunday was great. I mean, people were really hungover, and it was really like the attendance was really down, but all the booths were open, and it was easy to get in and out. Yeah, Sunday and Thursday is a great day too, because it's not open to the public. Thursday is the day where all the vendors get early access, and you know, if you can get hooked up through a vendor, like I've been fortunate to have a couple of times, and I probably will next year. Had like a kind of a snafu with it this year, where I had to buy my own pass, but you know, that's neither here nor there. I still had a good time. I went on Saturday and Sunday this year, but yeah. Other takeaways from NAMM. Universal Audio is trying to like get into the DAW market, and I think it's going to be really clunky to start, from what I saw. Even though it does look cool. They have a new DAW called Luna that they're going to be launching sometime this spring. And if you have an Apollo interface of any kind, it's free, and it basically works with your Apollo hardware. The thing that's really dope about it is that it has built-in analog summing. So summing is like, imagine your mix running through like one of those giant consoles that you see in like studios like Westlake or you know, why am I blanking the name of the Village and places like that, Abbey Roads, et cetera. Like imagine like having like a SSL console, having all your channels running. I think it's Neve. I think it's a Neve console that they emulate for that. But basically, you get analog summing on potentially on all your tracks. You just activate it. It's really cool. And then you also it's real time as well. You can also activate real time tape. So it's like simulating your mix running through tape, which kind of gives it an analog vintage sound. Can warm up a digital sound. So those are two things that are just kind of built into the DAW that look kind of cool. But I don't know. It just looked really, I was asking the guy who was demoing it a few basic questions about how it handles different types of audio, and he didn't have any idea. I don't think they still know how it's really going to handle like actual, like I asked him some questions like, so what's vocal comping like on this thing? And he kind of looked at me like I was asking what the, you know, what the programming for the, you know, 69 lunar landing was or something like that. I don't know. It was just he looked at me like I was asking like the most difficult question in the world. I think it was just because he didn't know and like they don't really know how it all works yet, but it looked kind of slick. The interface looks slick. It looks kind of like Logic to me, a little bit. Other things from NAMM. Oh, park at the, don't park, don't try to find like street parking, and don't try to park like at the venue. That was the other thing that was like super easy for me this time was I parked at Angel Stadium one time, and then I parked at the Honda Center the other time, and it was really fast. They have like shuttles that go between there. It's a lot easier than getting a spot at the lot. And in previous NAMMs, I've just like driven around in the neighborhoods and found like secret little streets that don't have parking restrictions, and had to walk like a mile to get to the convention center. And I don't know, you're going to do a ton of walking when you go to a big conference like that. So that extra couple miles really adds up, and your feet, you're going to hate yourself. Anything else from NAMM? I don't know. I attended a couple workshops, and they were kind of useful, kind of boring. And then just like wandering around, and I also just I was kind of over the like taking all the free stuff I could get to, because I've done NAMMs where I like take bags full of like stickers and postcards and cards and stuff like that. I just focus more on like hanging out with my friends and checking out a couple of things. I wanted to go check out that Roland recently released a little mixer for live streaming, but they didn't actually have it there. It was funny. I think we were guessing it was probably because it's like more like their video division, because it's like a live mixer that allows you to use your cell phone in conjunction with your desktop phone or your desktop camera, and then your screen, so you can like quickly switch between them, and there's 2 audio inputs on it as well. If it goes well, I'm probably just going to start using that with the class, because it would be really cool to just quickly go from this to this, and I think the audio would the quality of the audio would probably be a lot higher. So yeah, that's what I've been like playing around with the idea of Twitch streaming for quite some time. Just Twitch streaming, producing could be a lot of fun. I'm curious what y'all think about like the idea of like just if I were to go on like every day for like a couple hours and just like start producing a song from scratch. Is it something that people would find, and just kind of talk about it as I'm doing it? Would that be something that people would find interesting? Just curious as a concept. All right. Getting some thumbs up. Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm serious about that. I think it could be really cool. It wouldn't be hard to slot into my schedule. All right, so let's see. I know we have some more questions, so let's see if I can get through here. What if we were on collaboration teams but not on our own songs? That's fine. You know, it's like if you're on a collaboration team, it's your EP as well. So, you know, you shouldn't feel like you didn't do the work if you collaborated on somebody else's work, or because you were part of the reason why that whole project came together. So. It's perfectly okay for people to submit, for multiple people to submit the same EP. I would just suggest if you're going to do that, just have one person submit it, and just like say who all is involved in it. It'll be a lot easier just kind of like on our end to, just be fewer entries in Airtable to sort through at the end of it all. Just to clarify, if we finish our EP by February 24th, but have not been submitting the songs, no. So what I'm saying is like, if you submitted songs and you want to, like those should be on your EP, unless they were totally like a misfire or something like that, you know. If you have a track that really feels like it sticks out like a sore thumb, I would suggest like just sending us like a 3-song EP instead of a 4-song EP. But like the whole idea is like, if you haven't submitted a single thing yet and you're working on 4 songs and concurrently, that's fine, you know. Yeah, it's fine. If you have the time if you have 3 songs that are really like on target and you want to whip another song together and put it in there, it's not going to like, that's fine too. What we don't want is for like, you know, if you've been building on this work, like to just completely throw it out. Like, you know, I wouldn't suggest doing that if it's generally in the right direction. So the songs we submitted already. Well, Tim, yeah, the songs, that's kind of the idea is that we wanted people to build the EP as they're going along. If it's like if you really feel like you've misfired in some kind of way and you really want to try a different direction, then you can do that, I suppose. I think it's going to be a lot of pressure to put on yourself to put like 4 songs together in like the short amount of time that we have left. So, you know, just my thoughts. My brand is jazz based, but during the course I've had to diversify. It's taken me longer. Okay, well, cool. You're fine. It seems like you're seeing, you're finding a brand. Oh, swag hasn't ran out on Thursday. There's probably some better swag on Thursdays than there are in other times in the weekend. I mean, disco's super easy to use, and it's what a lot of supervisors and agencies use. So it might behoove you to put your library on Disco. But you know, when I was originally pitching around, Disco didn't exist, and I was using SoundCloud. So I was just using a private SoundCloud link, like a custom link that I shared. I think that Disco is probably the preference of most people to listen to stuff, but if you want to submit through something else, that's fine. I wouldn't put them up on YouTube or, you know. Yeah, I would definitely, if you're treating this as if, I mean, Catch the Moon as an agency, most of the agencies that we bring in, they're like, we want to be able to click, have the streamable link, pull up, play. This is going to be a test again to make sure that your links work. This is your shot to like make sure you double test your just like do a little QA on your or quality control on just like everything that you're doing, making sure that like, you know, somebody clicks on it, it opens up, it plays. So whatever you end up using, it really should be something where somebody can open it up and just press play. And it won't be any problems if they're not logged in. I've never been to the Nashville one. I think that's in the summer, isn't it? Oh, sweet. Yeah, Adam, I'm gonna maybe pick your brains about that, about the Twitch stuff. Hey, Kendra, about pitching to CTM after the class is over. You know, we don't consider any messages that come in from former students like unsolicited email or anything like that. But our ability to, you know, respond is just going to depend on like where we're at business wise. So it might take a little while for us to get back to you on something. If you send us some songs, you know, we'd be happy to take a listen to them. As far as like sending us songs like on a super regular basis, like sending us songs like every week, it's just something you would never do with like anybody. You wouldn't do that with a music supervisor. So I would just say, like, if you are going to send music, you would just after the course is over, just you would make sure to kind of follow the same guidelines that Kathy and I suggest in terms of like, you know, how often you follow up with people and just like follow the same things that we teach in terms of that. And but we're always interested and we want to hear what people are up to. So yeah. We're working with different teams. Can I brand it under my publishing company as a cohesive brand? Sure, you can. I suppose that's one way you could phrase it. Yeah, I just think you know, if it's 4 different styles of music, it's just when you're sending it over, it's going to be a little all over the place in terms of like, it could potentially be a little jarring for somebody to, you know, to listen to it, and as well as for us to kind of consider it. So, you know, just kind of want to see what like direction you're really picking to. That's another thing with this is like at some point you got to make decisions about like what you're trying to do. And if you're doing like too many different things, it can actually like distract you from maybe focusing on the thing that you're best at. So, and if you don't know what you're best at yet, you know, can always continue to ask for feedback on that in the listening sessions and, you know, just on these calls and in the group. We've heard a lot about talking to music supervisors. How do you pitch to agencies? Pitching to agencies, by the way, sorry, Mike, I see, is this the question that you have that you wanted to ask in person? Sorry, man, I just saw that you had your hand up. Sorry about that. We've heard a lot about talking to music supervisors. How do you pitch to agencies? I would say that it's often a little easier to get traction with agencies, or at least get a response with agencies if you have something that's on target with what they're doing. But there are certain agencies where you're going to need some type of an introduction in order to really get somebody's attention. You know, you can't just like send an email to Secret Road and expect them to respond to you. You know, for example, like the big ones, it's pretty tough to, and a lot of them, they'll literally say like, we don't have any, what I would suggest when you want to contact an agency is to go to their website, see what it says about submissions, see if they have a contact number, give them a ring. If it doesn't say anything, just ask them. I would suggest just being active about it, you know, being direct. Anytime I have a question about that kind of stuff, I don't hesitate to just pick up the phone and ask. It doesn't hurt. And then the best case scenario, you know, you start to get a little rapport with somebody who works there, and, you know, then when you send an email later, they're like, oh, I remember that person. They were friendly on the phone. They were polite and all that stuff. And, you know, and then if your music's like really, really, really good on top of that, then you're kind of setting yourself up for, you know, potentially being able to have a meeting with them. I would also look, you know, if there are agencies like in your immediate area. I don't know what part of the country you're at, but it's like wherever you're at, maybe looking for ones, because I know some agencies, some smaller boutique agencies prefer to work with artists that are kind of regional. For example, one of them is Marmoset. They prefer to work with artists that are kind of in the Northwest. Not to say they don't rep artists from all over the country, but I think their offices are in Portland, and it's actually, from what I hear, it's not tough to get a walk through over there and talk to some people. If you're, once again, if like your music kind of reaches that level that they're looking for in terms of stuff, I've had a few friends who've gotten good response from them and gone over and walked through over there, and I even have a couple of friends that were repped by them. It's a good agency from what I hear. I don't have any tracks with them, but that's just like I guess like other things with agencies. What's the difference? I mean, I think you gotta make a personal inroads in some way. If you can get some type of an invite, you can get some type of find out who like runs the agency, follow them on Instagram. If they have like an Instagram page, follow some of the people who work for the company. If you can find out, like sometimes they'll list like the people that work in the agency, and you can find them on Instagram or, I wouldn't suggest like sending them friend requests on Facebook or something like that, but probably wouldn't be the best thing to send them a private Instagram thing, but sometimes that works too. Some people are a little more guarded when it comes to like social media. But some people have open, you'd be surprised. Sometimes I've even seen things where, like, you know, people from agencies will say, hey, we've got this thing, we've got this cool artist that we rep, and they're going to be performing a set over here. And then, you know, it's a good opportunity for you to go down and potentially get some FaceTime with them. You'd say, hey, you know, like I'm a real fan of go see the act, and say like, hey, I did a little research on your agency. I recognize your face because you're like the owner of the company or whatever. You know, you don't make it weird. You can just be like, hey, I just wanted to introduce myself. I think these things really do work. Just being able to like have any kind of in-person connection with somebody from an agency. And then sometimes it's also, you might have a connection through like somebody that they already rep, which is sometimes a way to go about it too. A way to get into an agency can sometimes be like just collaborating with somebody who's already repped by them. So you can also kind of go shopping for like, who are the cool people, who are the up and coming people that are repped by this agency that I might be able to work with in some capacity. So that's another angle you can think about. Walk through means like you get a little tour of the place, you know, get a little walkthrough of it, little meet and greet. And yeah, Beverly, just so I'm clear, you can still, you're always welcome to send us emails, just as you always have been here during the course. But like I said, it's going to be different than like the assignments. You know, the deadline for submitting the EP is the deadline for submitting the EP. If you end up like having an EP of marketable music like 6 months from now, and you want to send it to us, that's great, but it's not going to go through the same kind of process. We're not going to give you like the individualized feedback that we typically do with the song stuff. It's going to be more like either it's like, if it's something like we're really excited about, we'll be like, oh, this is dope, you know, what are you doing to rep this stuff? Versus like, we might be like, oh, this is cool, but it doesn't really fit what we're looking for right now. In terms of like, if you're looking for Catch the Moon to rep it, and we might just say, hey, right now at this point, it's not something that we would want to rep, but like really glad that you reached out to us. So it's like, those are the types of like situations, like, cause people send us music like all the time. And, you know, it boils down to like, it's going to be a little bit more of a simple kind of response and interaction once the course is over. Let's see. I think I got your question there. Do we have any other questions? Oh, wow. Time flies. It's already been like an hour and a half. It was funny. I was like, when the call started, nobody was asking any questions, and there really weren't a lot of people on the call. And I was like, oh, how's this going to go? This is the way it always ends up. We always end up like just going down different rabbit holes. And then I look up and I'm like, oh, wow, been on this thing for like an hour and a half. That's cool. Well, I know we got a bunch of songs in the queue. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Just see how we're doing here. Yeah, we should be able to get through probably another half of the songs that are here, if I had to guess. So, yeah, we got like 24 songs. We definitely won't get through everything this week, but yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out. Yeah, so I don't see any other questions. I think I'm gonna wrap this for now, and we'll get prepped for the listening session, and I'll see y'all in about like a half an hour. But thanks as always for all the awesome questions, and I'm gonna be catching up as well a little bit on the Facebook stuff. I see there's a bunch of questions over in Facebook, and I'm gonna try to get back to each and every one of you with just my take on anything that you want to know about. And just as always, just bring your questions every week. That's what this is here for. And have yourself a great weekend. If you can't make the listening session, hope you catch it later, and have a great rest of your day. All right, I'll catch you later.